At the NFL draft, General Manager Sonny Weaver has the opportunity to rebuild his team when he trades for the number one pick. This is my review of Draft Day. So I'm just going to tell you guys up front that I'm not a big football fan. I only watch football during Super Bowl season, but other than that, I only watch a game or two before Super Bowl season kicks off. When I first saw the trailer for Draft Day, I thought to myself, that may be a cool concept to see, like the behind the scenes thing, like to the draft, and see like what these general managers go through to get their picks and everything. So I decided to see the movie with my dad, and I have to tell you guys that Draft Day is a little bit of a surprise. It's actually good. The good points. The thing I like about Draft Day the most was the writing and the story. So the movie takes place in one day, and that's what surprised me about this movie, is that it takes place in one day, which is on the day of the draft, and from the trailers, it made it seem like the story was going to take place over a couple of weeks, but no, it took place in just one day, and that's what surprised me. Another thing I like about the writing is the build-up towards the draft, because it starts out like almost half a day before the draft starts, and Kevin Costner's character, who's the general manager of the Browns, he's like calling the other general managers of the other NFL teams, like talking to them, talking about draft picks and everything, and making trades already. And he's talking to the managers of the draftees and the draftees themselves, like talking to them, seeing if they want to join their team, or they're calling him and seeing if like they have a spot with them at all. Another thing I liked about the writing was that it kept me invested in the movie, and for someone that's not really into football to keep me invested in like a football movie, that's impressive. The directing and acting were equally great. Ivan Reitman was the person that directed this movie, and his directing was really interesting because he had a lot of split screen moments where Kevin Costner's character was talking to a general manager or a draftee, and there was a split screen, and on both sides were each of them like on their phones. And then what I found interesting was like after they talked to each other and hanged up, like you get to see both their reactions at the same time to see like how they both feel. And overall, I thought that the acting from the cast was great, especially from Kevin Costner, who plays the lead. I thought that the running time for the movie was great because it spent the right amount of time on like the build-up towards the draft, it spent the right amount of time on the draft, and it spent just a little bit of time just to show you what happened after the draft, like a few months, like when the NFL season was starting to kick off. Another thing I like about the movie is that it had this Moneyball feel to it, and I really liked Moneyball. I know that some people didn't like Moneyball because of its like slow pacing and whatnot, but I really enjoyed Moneyball because of like the story behind it and everything, and just Draft Day had this Moneyball feel to it, and I really liked that feel. The final good point I have to say is the comic relief. I thought that the comic relief was used at the right moment, at the right scene. And there were some points where I thought that the comic relief wasn't needed, but overall I thought that the use of it was good. The bad points. So the thing I didn't like about this movie was some of the writing. I know I said in good points that the writing was really good. I mean, it is good, but there's some aspects of the writing that I didn't like. The major thing about the writing I didn't like was the romance that they put in this movie. I mean, the romance between Kevin Costner's character and Jennifer Garner's character I thought wasn't needed at all. Because if you completely cut the entire romance out of the movie, it doesn't change the movie one bit, in my opinion. And I also think that the romance was in there just for the people that were dragged like to the movies by their boyfriends or family members that liked football and wanted to see this movie and had this romance just for them, so that they wouldn't get bored at all in the movie. Another thing I didn't like about the writing was that it sort of got convoluted at points, and what I mean by that was that there were a lot of people that you needed to know in this movie, like you need to know their names, and they're like mentioned like really early in the movie, they're not mentioned for a long time, and then they're mentioned again towards the end of the movie during the draft, and it's like, wait, who's that person again? And you sort of like don't remember, like you have to pay close attention if you want to remember some of these people. The other thing I didn't like about the writing for Draft Day was that you sort of needed to be a football fan to like know some of the terminology and facts about the draft to like know what's going on. I knew how the draft worked, and I knew like what you could and couldn't do in the draft. But if you were someone that was dragged into this movie by your boyfriend or your family member, and you didn't know like how the draft worked, then you would be lost. So I saw this movie with my dad, and my dad gives this movie a 2.75 out of 4 stars, while I give it a 3 out of 4 stars. If you're a sports fan, then I think you'll really enjoy this movie. But if you're just a regular moviegoer, then I don't think you really need to see this movie right now. Unless you want to, then you can. But really, I don't really necessarily think you need to see it right now. I think you can wait for it to come out on DVD and Blu-ray. So that was my review for Draft Day. Hope you guys liked it. And other than that, that's it.